Hey, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about statistics. If you've taken your statistics class already, then you might find this little video humorous because it's really basic. It's really down and dirty, but I want to maybe give it a little bit of twist. And if you haven't taken your stats class yet, then I hope that we can talk about some of the basics so you're not too frightened of it, but also kind of understanding how it relates to the geosciences and what we can do with that. So anyway, what we're going to talk about first is some random numbers, right? So what I did is I went through the class roster and I took everyone's first name, right? And then what I did is if you were an A, then I put a 1 on the piece of paper, and 2 was B and 3 was C, and 26, wait, if you were a Z, then you were 26. So Zoe and Zachary, we have you up here as well. And so I put all of you guys up here, and I got bored of writing the same numbers. And so, you know, we've got Roman numerals, and Garrett, number 7, you went a little artsy on us as well. So here's what we want to do. Okay? The first thing that I want to talk about is what's called the domain and the range. Now, if you talk to a mathematician, they're going to tell you kind of how they start to see the domain and the range, right? So the domain is going to be all the values that can come in. The range is going to be all the resulting values of a particular equation. But I come from the GIS world, right? So when I start talking about the domain and the range, that's going to be kind of a little bit different, okay? And so when we are setting up a domain, and that domain can be numeric, that domain can be specific values, right? And so I'm thinking about creating an attribute table inside of GIS, and so it's going to be specific types of numbers. And so it's going to be specific types of values, right? So I might say that this particular value, maybe it's going to be land use, and so it can be forested or grassland or urbanized, or, you know, I set up some different categories, right? But if we think about domain, like, oh, this is my domain, right? This is all of the different possibilities. And so that first thing that we want to look at, the domain of these particular values is going to be what I set up before, right? It's going to be any whole number, right? So it would be a whole number between 1 and 26, right? Because that's what I kind of set up, right? So that's going to be all of the possibilities that we could have for this particular guy. Okay, now for range, we got to start actually looking at the data. So the thing that I want to do first, before I start trying to make any sense of this, is I want to put them all in order. So I'm going to put the 1 over there because I know that Ashley and Anna, you're here, and I'm going to put them in order as we go across the top of the board. I think we'll speed the video up a little bit here. Oh, you don't have to sit and watch me in class. It's so wonderful. Okay, so we got that done, and as we can see, we do have Angie and Anna and Ashley and Andrea, you're way over here. So the range of those values, the lowest side of those values is going to be the 1, okay? And we've got Zoe and Zachary up over here as well. And so we've got our 2 high values. So that range is going to be the same as the domain. We actually have those all together, right? And so it's going to be the difference between the high and the low. It's going to be the high value and the low value, right? And so we would say that our range is, again, between 1 to 26. And so our, just so happens that our domain and our range in this example happen to be the same, but it's not always going to happen that way. Cool. The next thing we want to know is how many individual values we're looking for, all right? And I was looking for the fancy more scientific-y term for this, and I wasn't able to find anything, but it's the n. It's the n value. If you've taken stats, you're probably sick of hearing about the n. If we are taking an entire count, then that's usually symbolized with a capital N. If we're going to be taking a sample, then it's usually a lowercase n. But we want to know how many data values we have. How many values? How many entries, how many are we dealing with, right? And that's going to be symbolized with the n, usually. And so let's take a look. We've got 30 people in the class, so that's a nice even number. Good for us. Okay, and so our n, the total values that we have, are going to be 30. Okay, so we've got our domain, we've got our range, we've got our n value of 30. Okay. Now there's a few other things that we want to deal with a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that I'd like to look at is the median. Right? And when we're looking at a sequence of numeric values like this, your stats teacher might have a different equation to figure this out. But this is how I usually do that. I'm going to figure out whatever number is in the middle. Now, this one's a little bit tricky because we have an even number. If we had an odd number, it would be perfect. I should just probably disqualify myself. But then, Steve, you'd be alone here. And, you know, we need to be 19s together. So anyway, so what would the middle, the mode is going to be, no, not the mode. The median is going to be the number that's right in the middle. Okay. So what we would see with a median is the value in the middle. Okay, and so what we would have is we're going to have that median, and we're going to have the same number on one side as we would have on the other side. Okay, and so I know that there's 30, so I'm going to count up 15 values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so there's 15, and so there's going to be 15 over on that side, and there's 15 over on this side. And it just so happens that line lands right there between our two 10s, okay? And so Justin and James, wait, there are two Jameses. Well, glad we're, not in person. That would get confusing. Or James to me, I counted you twice. Anyway, we're going to go with it. Good, so we've got Justin and James. I put you guys right there in the middle, and so our median value of our data sets right here is going to be 10. Right? And that's going to be where basically we have it right in the middle. Now, where do we see median? We see that a lot with housing prices, okay? And as geographers or looking at spatial data, right, that's going to be one of the things that we understand for particular regions, for particular census tracts, for other things like that, is it helps us understand income, median income. That's one of the ways that we often will look at it. It just means that there's going to be some people that are going to be making less, some people that are going to be making more. Median house cost in an area, there's going to be half the houses that are less than that, half the houses that are more than that. Okay, so that's going to be where we start to see that median. Okay.